Hey guys, it's Christian Singh here, back from C&H Technology again for another informative service and review video. What you see in front of you right here is a not too commonly known machine. It's a zero-turn lawn tractor. It's made by MTD with a subcategory of White's Outdoor. This one has a 18 horsepower overhead valve engine on it. You see right here. Let me give you a close-up shot of the actual engine here. 18 horsepower, industrial plus Briggs and Stratton on here, full pressure lubrication, and it has a serial number date code on here of 2000. Let me zoom in on here for that. You might not be able to make it out, but the model number is 407777, so that's 4 sevens. Type is 0128-E1 with a date code of 2000 right there, so 00 right there as well too. And the reason we got this machine over here was because the customer called me up. They found me online, and they were claiming they kept on blowing fuses every time they'd start up and run for about a minute or less than a minute. It kept on blowing fuses on the machine, and he did not know what kind of fuse actually went in the machine specifically, because he purchased it used secondhand, and he was not able to get an owner's mail with it whenever he actually purchased it, so that's why he brought it over to us. We checked it out, and this specific machine has 2 fuses in it. One right next to the actual gas tank, as you see right here. They have 2 fuse locations, one right next to the gas tank, as you see right there, and it also has one underneath the actual seat back here. I should say it's underneath the battery compartment, to be more precisely. It's directly underneath the battery and over to the left over there as well too. So it has 2 specific battery, or I have to say 2 specific fuses. Sorry about that. Here's a shot of the actual engine, or I should say the actual tag, I think, for the machine right here. There's the tag specifically for the machine. It is a model number 13AT626G190, and it's a ZTT1850 as a superficial, we want to call serial number for the whole machine, basically. The guy left the actual hood off because he said he likes to have it run cooler, as that's why the hood's off for specific reasons, if anybody's inquiring about that. The specific fuses this thing takes is 2 20 amp fuses on this specific machine right here for that. Unfortunately, the actual owner's manual I looked up online did not list the specific amp rating for each fuse, and I had to call up my MTD contacts, because I have basically a paid subscription to MTD Tech support. If I need any kind of quick information, quick references and stuff like that, they can give them to you over the phone, or they can email me out any kind of PDF documents I might need for any kind of specific machines over here for our shop. The other guy needed the following work done to it. He needed a new regulator rectifier, and he also needed a new charging coil up underneath the engine right here. So he needed 2 pieces. He and this piece right here, you see this little grayish black box. What was happening was this thing was actually seeping out. You see this black material right here. This thing was seeping out material from that specific location, plus the actual charging coil had about 4 burnt coils on there as well too. That's directly underneath the actual flywheel underneath here. And we had to go ahead, here's the actual order, or the actual order receipt we have for the guy right here. We had to replace all those 2 pieces, plus we also had to do the fuel line as well too. His fuel line was getting extremely cracked on the front up here. These fuel lines, they should be replaced I'd say about every 5 years to be on a safe side. What you see right here is a brand new OEM Briggs fuel line right here. That's what they come from the factory. This is actually a one from about 2 years ago. I normally buy in bulk, and that's why I have all the fuel line. It's like in a big, probably got about 100-foot roll. I also put a Tecumseh fuel line on here as well too, because I had one sitting around and it was not being used. So I stuck that on as a secondary one right here. It's basically has the same ID as the original fuel line, except the OD on the outside diameter is slightly smaller. It'll work perfectly fine. So if you're in a pinch and you don't have any specific Briggs fuel line, you can use the Compass branded fuel line if you needed to as well too. The other thing we found on his machine was the actual impulse line right here that goes from your valve cover up to your fuel pump right here. This thing was actually sticking out. It was not venting properly up into the fuel pump, and it was causing intermittent surging and shutting off the engine tube, because you have to have a specific pulse going up to the fuel line and to the fuel filler directly to suck the gasoline up to the pump and up to the carburetor as well too. So always make sure that the impulse pipe right here is completely clean. It doesn't have any splits or cracks or anything else like that. Make sure it's completely straight on the machine, because if it's sticking out and it's not sealing properly on the valve cover here, it will be giving you problems allowing the fuel pump to operate in a sufficient manner right here to draw fuel from the tank up to the engine right there specifically. So that's basically everything we did to the machine over here. It took about 3 hours to do it properly. The biggest problem we ran into was the actual flywheel. The flywheel, they have to be torqued up to about 150 pounds right there for that, and you need a deep well socket right there to put on top of the flywheel, the actual nut right there on top of it. Plus you also need to put a new keyway, and you also need to clean off the tapered edge where the actual flywheel mates to the keyway as well. You want that to be absolutely spotless clean. So I always recommend hitting with some emery cloth or a wire steel brush and make sure it's bare clean. It doesn't have any debris or oil or anything else on it, because whenever you put the flywheel down onto the actual crank right there, you want that to be as clean as possible, because you don't want any kind of hang-ups or any kind of problems installing it back again. Because we had a guy over here about 3 years ago. He went out and purchased a used tractor, and somehow he managed to do something to the flywheel. I think he told us he tried to take it off himself because he wanted to see why the machine was having intermittent starting issues, and he took the actual flywheel off, and he didn't torque it up properly. He said he only torqued up to like 20 or 30 pounds, and it kept on breaking the actual flywheel key down side right there. You have to torque the flywheels up to 150 pounds on it, because if you do not torque them up to the Briggs spec, you will more than likely break the flywheel key. So be mindful of that fact, specifically in the bigger engines like this. This is an 18 horsepower, and normally all the bigger ones require about 150 pounds of torque to be torqued up on them. So you might need 2 people to do it properly. So that's what we had to do. That's probably about the biggest bitch of a job to do right there specifically. And I also do recommend, anytime you do take the flywheel off, mark the flywheel. You can get a black magic marker and mark the flywheel where the actual locking nut on top of the flywheel goes to it. So if you do have problems, you're running into it, torquing up the proper spec, and you just basically hit it with your impact gun and torque it back up to where the lines actually meet right there, as basically a cheap and dirty way of solving the torque problem if you're only by yourself and you don't have 2 people to torque the flywheel to proper specs. Okay, I'll fire it up here for you guys so you can actually see this thing running around, since this is a rather unique machine as well too. Okay, as I said before, it is a 0-turn tractor here. As you see, it has unique wheels in the back here. Plus, it also has 2 hydrostatic drive units on the back as well too. So you get 2 dump valves directly in the back there as well too, guys. So I'll go ahead and fire up here, sit on top here. Okay, what you want to do is turn on full speed up on the speed control. You want to pull out the choke down here, chokes right here directly below the actual tank steering situation machine right here and stuff like that. You get your PTO over here on the left hand side, and you have your ignition switch right down here in the bottom as well too. Plus you have your brake over here that has to be engaged as it is right now. So we'll go ahead and fire this thing up here for you guys. And there we go. The unique thing about this tractor is it's half zero turn and half regular tractor. So basically you have the best of both worlds on this specific machine right here. So you have the tank steering on here, so if you're on a flat and you need to turn around real quickly, you don't have the huge turning radius the typical lawn tractor would have. This thing basically turns on a dime whenever you're on a specific flat piece of ground and the actual grass is dry. So that's one good feature about this thing. The only thing I found personally that I don't specifically like about this machine is we have a very hilly backyard over here. See my backyard right over there in the side straight ahead right there. If this ground is extremely wet, especially in the morning, you get morning dew out there about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you take this tractor down here and try to do a 360-degree turn, it will not do it. It will not turn properly. It'll be basically slipping like an absolute bitch out there, and that's about the only drawback that I found with a specific setup for this specific machine right here for that. So that's about the only drawback that I've seen. Other than that, this thing is great for cutting fields, big flat open spaces, and you want to do a zero turn on them out there as well. This is your machine to go for, because they'll definitely do the job in record time out there for that. So if anybody has any comments, questions, whatnot about this White's outdoor 18 horsepower zero turn hybrid tractor here, feel free to call me or just leave me a message at the bottom of the page, and I'll try to get any information you might need about something like this. So I'll see you guys. Have a nice day.